Natalie, this movie has a lot of music because it's so important to it, and so many things in your career have revolved around music, and especially in films. And I'm thinking of like The Lonely Island. What was music important as you looked at the script and thought about doing this role?
I really liked getting to work with Sia's songs was such an incredible opportunity. She writes such wonderful pop music, and it's really it was really lucky, I think, on the film because it really rested on the believability of having real pop songs, because the, the the music has to be believably major pop hits, and we only could have done that with Sia's work. And it, of course, gave a tone for the whole atmosphere of the film, too.
And costume design and hair and makeup. I'm thinking about those people that you worked with as well. That's a huge part of your performance in this role.
Yeah, well, hair and makeup and costumes always gives you a real sense of the character, because you look in the mirror and you see someone different, and that makes you feel very different.
Celeste, you play Celeste grown up, and then we see Raffi as her younger. When you're doing a movie like this, do you want to see her scenes or does she want to see your scenes so you can compare?
We really didn't coordinate in that way because the characters are so different, and Brady consciously skipped the period in between when this sort of like innocent child grows up into this monster. You don't really see how it happens. You just see the kind of before and after, and they're supposed to be really different. So we didn't have any sort of coordination on it, but I loved the fact that he had her play both roles, because I felt like when she's dealing with her daughter, she's seeing her younger self, and so all of that self-hatred and self-love, and also just the poignance of seeing the before and after of a character all shines through this daughter character, because she's also the younger version of the older Celeste.
And that's so rare when we have seen people play a character played by multiple people that they never get to appear in that movie together. And here she does play your daughter.
Right.
What was that like acting opposite her, knowing that?
Well, it was scary because it's obviously a bigger challenge to be believable as the same character when you've got the younger version of the character in the scene with you. But I loved it too, because it really gave this feeling of like looking at your younger self when you look at your kid, which I think is a part of what it feels like to be a parent often, is this sense that you have this second chance and this sort of cyclical nature, and the good and the bad of that, like the generosity that you can feel by looking at someone who is a piece of you, and also the difficulty of that too, because of course of seeing yourself and how you feel about yourself.
School shootings have unfortunately become such a large part of daily conversation in this country, and that's a huge moment in this movie. What about this movie do you want people to come away in that regard?
I think it's much more a reflection of the world we live in right now than a sort of like message about it. I think how people feel about it is up to them to take away from the movie, and I hope that people have a variety of different experiences walking away, because I think that's what the best art does, is it provokes a conversation, but people have different feelings depending on their different backgrounds.
Celeste is so innocent when the movie starts, and then everything happens, and then like you said, there's that gap. What do you think happened in that time during that gap?
Well, I think that part of the reason it works, that there's this gap between, and Brady talks about why he wrote it that way, is that we're very familiar with the tropes of like someone becoming a star and changing and having these downfalls, both through real life stories and through kind of cinematic tropes. So we can easily fill that in. We don't necessarily need to see it to understand what got her from point A to point B, and that brings a lot of the audience's participation into it.
And how did you avoid that? You started awfully young.
Well, I feel that it's quite different to be an actress than a pop star, and also, I mean, I had very good protective parents that I think that it gets quite complicated when people who are supposed to be loving and protective of you are also profiting off of your uh, fame or your work, so that I was lucky not to have that because my family wasn't really involved in my business except for just trying to keep me safe. So I think it's complicated for Celeste to have some of the people closest to her so heavily involved in her career.
Brady, first-time director. We've known him as an actor for a long
Second time. Yeah.
We've known him as an actor for a long time too. What's it like when you do get to work with an actor that's turned director?
It's really great to work with an actor, especially a very good actor like Brady turned director, because I think he really understands what an actor needs, like what helps an actor thrive and have an atmosphere where they can be really creative. So he created a very fun, safe, and free environment. I think the freedom was key. He created scenarios where we could do a scene from beginning to end, and that's really helpful because you get to really explore different options and try different things, and that was really fun.
One scene I loved was the restaurant scene with you and your daughter, the diner scene. Tell us about shooting that one and if you enjoyed that one as well.
Well, that was really cool also because we did the scene also in one long take, and there were 2 cameras, so we could try different things, and we could go from start to finish. And Rafi was just incredible at such a young age to be able to sustain that intensity for these very, very long takes, and we could try different things because there were 2 cameras. If she did something that I reacted to, or I did something that she reacted to that was different, we could be spontaneous and it would be caught on both sides, so we wouldn't have to repeat it. Normally, if you're not shooting with 2 cameras, then you have to repeat those spontaneous moments to get both sides of that. So Brady, again, created a scenario that we could really just try different things.
We're an awards website, so I want to ask you a couple of awards-related questions. For this movie, being campaigned and supporting actress, there's very few women that have ever won lead and supporting at the Oscars. And some huge names like Meryl Streep and Kate Blanchett and Ingrid Bergman and Maggie Smith. What would that mean to you to join a group of ladies like that if it were to happen?
Well, those are all women I deeply admire. I think that getting to be part of this kind of film is such a gratifying experience that alone is already such an incredible experience. So awards attention really just helps these kinds of films get more attention and get more audiences, because of course it's always helpful to help films that might be seen as kind of smaller, more independent films get a wider audience.
I see that with friends and family when they'll say, something gets nominated or wins something and they suddenly want to see it. Maybe they hadn't even heard of it before.
Right.
Tell us about your Oscar night, the night you won for Black Swan. You'd won basically everything leading up to that moment. Was it kind of in your mind that this was going to happen that night?
Well, it was really a whirlwind of a night, and you're so tired by that point. It's become such like a season, and you're going up so many things, and being pregnant through it especially was I just felt very tired, and so it was really an amazing feeling. But I also just remember being very overwhelmed by all of it, and exhausted, and ready to just kind of be able to be in bed and just relaxing afterwards. So it was very it was a real really incredible honor and a really incredible experience, and also completely exhausting.
What was your first big award show that you went to? Do you remember?
I think the first time I went to an awards show was the Golden Globes, when I was nominated for Anywhere But Here for supporting actress when I was 18. I remember I left college to come for the weekend and attend the show.
That's one of the most fun because it's a party It doesn't feel as nerve wracking, I don't think. But it's film and TV too. Did you meet a lot of people that night that you heroes?
Yeah, it's very surreal, I think, always to enter a room where you like recognize everybody, but you don't know anybody, and it's like a dream where you you know, are in a space where you're just surrounded by people you admire and you're familiar with, and then you feel like you're like, oh hey, but you actually don't know them at all. So it's a funny experience.
It must be odd also when you're that young that people would know you. You know, you certainly know the people that you grew up watching, but then you turn around and somebody like that knows who you are.
Yeah, it's a completely an honor when people you admire and respect come up to you to say they've seen your film, or they appreciate what you do. And that's always the most fun, when you get to interact with people that you really admire and enjoy their work and get to sort of exchange appreciation.
One question I always like to close on when I have an Oscar voter in front of me, probably done this 100 times or more. Just tell us about the process of voting from your perspective when you're either nominating or voting for a winner. You don't have to give names, but
Yeah.
just what are you looking for in a performance that makes you want to vote for it?
I feel like it's very instinctive if someone moves me, or if someone does something that I feel like I haven't seen before, or of course in other categories, just, you know, work that makes you feel something that remarkable, shows virtuosity, and we're lucky. I feel like there's such interesting stuff that you get exposed to from getting to see all these films, you know, that you don't get in other parts of your life.
As you were growing up, what were a couple of performances that you saw over the course of your life that just wowed you? Or a couple of movies?
I remember Dead Man Walking really moving me and inspiring me as a teenager. Like, it felt like a movie that changed my mind about a lot of things, and also had really incredible performances. I remember Breaking the Waves was like completely astonishing, and I felt like I had never seen anything like that performance-wise before. I feel like those were probably the first two that come to mind.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would name this one that you're promoting now, as well as Black Swan and some of your others, when they're talking about some of their favorite
Thank you.
Oscar-type performances. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with the movie.
Thanks so much.